When you slow the situation down and look at it through a situational football lens, what you're really talking about isn't a coaching headline or an off-season rumor. You're talking about structure. You're talking about rhythm. And most importantly, you're talking about how an offense functions when the field gets short, the windows get tight, and the margin for error disappears. The discussion around a potential offensive coordinator change in Kansas City has been framed publicly as a future decision. But from a RedZone Kingdom perspective, this conversation actually starts years earlier, inside the 20-yard line, on third down, late in halves, and late in games. That's where offensive identity shows up most clearly. I'm Daniel, and here's what stood out to me when I slowed this whole thing down. The Kansas City Chiefs have not suddenly forgotten how to score. That's the first thing that needs to be said. This roster still features Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, a physical downhill runner in Isaiah Pacheco, and the same head coach who has designed some of the most efficient red zone offenses of the last decade in Andy Reid. Talent isn't the mystery here. Process is. If you go back to the early Mahomes seasons, especially during the years when Eric Bieniemy was the offensive coordinator, Kansas City's red zone offense had a very clear personality. Motion before the snap forced defensive communication. Route combinations were layered vertically, not just horizontally. And most importantly, plays were sequenced, one call setting up the next two. That sequencing matters more in the red zone than anywhere else on the field. For casual fans, the red zone means any snap inside the opponent's 20-yard line. But functionally, it's a completely different game. Defenses no longer fear the deep ball. Safeties sit flatter. Linebackers don't have to carry vertical routes for as long. Everything compresses. And when everything compresses, timing and spacing replace speed as the primary weapons. During the 2022 season, Kansas City averaged nearly 29 points per game. That didn't happen because of explosive plays alone. It happened because drives finished. Third and goal from the 7 turned into touchdowns, not field goals. Third, and for near the goal line, didn't feel like a crisis situation. It felt routine. Since Matt Nagy returned to the organization as offensive coordinator, that sense of inevitability has slowly faded. Not disappeared, but softened. The points per game numbers tell part of the story, but situational tape tells the rest. Inside the red zone over the last few seasons, you see fewer plays designed to isolate leverage. You see fewer route stems that force defenders to declare early. And you see more snaps where Mahomes is asked to solve the problem after the ball is snapped rather than before. Mahomes can do that. He's the best in the league at it. But asking your quarterback to create instead of execute is not the same as putting him in the best possible position. From a third down perspective, this shows up clearly. Third down is about clarity. Does the quarterback know where the ball is going before the snap if the defense shows a certain look? In earlier iterations of this offense, the answer was often yes. The spacing told the story. The motion gave the answer. Recently, you see more hesitation. Not because Mahomes is unsure, but because the picture is murkier. Defenses are able to sit on routes. They're able to disguise late. And that's often a sign that the offense isn't forcing them to declare early enough. This is where the coordinator conversation becomes interesting. Not emotionally, but structurally. If Kansas City were to simply bring back Bieniemy, the question isn't whether he's a good coach. He is. The question is whether that move actually changes how defenses are stressed inside the 20. Under Bieniemy, especially in the later years, Andy Reid still had significant control over play design and play calling. That partnership worked because the league was still adjusting to Mahomes. The answers weren't all there yet. Now, the league has answers. Defenses have years of tape. They understand Kansas City's tendencies. And that means any offensive adjustment has to be intentional, not nostalgic. From a red zone standpoint, what this offense needs isn't a louder voice or a stricter tone. It needs new ways to create leverage. That could mean different motion timings. It could mean more condensed formations that force defenders into traffic. It could mean marrying the run game and pass game more tightly, so play action actually freezes linebackers again. That's why the idea of bringing in someone from outside the Reid coaching tree is at least worth discussing. Someone like Nate Shilhasa, currently with the Los Angeles Rams, represents a different lineage, one influenced by Sean McVay's approach to spacing, condensed splits, and defensive manipulation. McVay-style offenses are built around forcing defenders into conflict before the snap. Motion isn't window dressing, it's diagnostic. And in the red zone, that's gold. If you can tell Mahomes what the coverage is before the ball is snapped, you're already ahead. This doesn't mean abandoning what makes Kansas City dangerous. Quite the opposite. Kelsey's feel for leverage is still elite. Pacheco's downhill style still forces defenses to respect inside runs near the goal line. Mahomes' anticipation is still unmatched. The goal would be to give those strengths cleaner structures to operate within. Historically, the Chiefs have been at their best when their red zone offense feels calm. When it feels like the defense is reacting, not dictating. During Super Bowl runs, you saw drives where every play had a purpose, where third down didn't feel desperate, and where play action actually held defenders just long enough. That's the standard this offense is being measured against. Not league average, not other teams, but its own past efficiency. Right now, Kansas City sits closer to the league average in red zone touchdown percentage than it did during its peak years. That's not catastrophic, but it is revealing. It tells you that the margins are tighter. And in January football, tight margins decide seasons. So when people talk about waiting for the right moment to make a coordinator decision, what they're really talking about is whether this offense can evolve structurally without losing its identity. That's a delicate balance. Change for the sake of change doesn't help, but stagnation is just as dangerous. From a RedZone Kingdom perspective, this offseason isn't about personalities. It's about answers. How do you stress modern defenses inside the 10-yard line? How do you make 3rd and 3 feel automatic again? How do you let Mahomes play fast instead of improvisational? Those questions will matter long after the coordinator title is decided. And that's the real takeaway here. Not who gets hired, not who returns, but whether the next version of this offense gives Kansas City clearer solutions when the field is short and the game is on the line. I'm Daniel. I'm your host here at RedZone Kingdom. And that's how this moment looks when you slow it down and watch it like a strategist.